Welcome back to Factorio MSX Gigabase. We are starting this episode with a bit of a cock-up. Basically, there seems to be a problem here. I can't even see what it is because I don't have a radar, but it looks like these are not signaled correctly because this guy should be able to come out here and he is not. So we need to head up to iron 29. It's could be on this list, but I sort of doubt it. Doesn't really matter if it is or not, we can just add it. So iron 29, we don't have our own little private stop up there, but I'm sure this will get us there and then we can sort it out. We seem to have a little bit of a hold up around iron because of that, in terms of plate trains coming in, and that's probably part of the reason why this is at a fairly low and dismal level. If we look at other things, what are we doing? We're doing efficiency module 3s at 220 a minute, more or less. Of course, our science is still carrying on at the 12,000 a minute, jumping around a little bit. If we do it over 10 minutes, it looks like there's been a bit of a changeover between blue and efficiency modules. They both haven't been going for the full 10 minutes. It doesn't look like speed module 3s are going on anymore anyway. They've obviously reached whatever they were trying to get to, or they're starved for material. But our science has continued at 12,000 a minute, which is kind of the main thing. If you recall, this smelting stack is the only one that still has sort of access from the center area all the way up here, so we should be able to just drive straight up there without any great difficulty, assuming we can get through Circuit Alley's traffic jam. It's just a matter of time. Now, on to other matters. I have been mucking around with some blueprints, and I want to pull this one in. Yeah, new mining. So I want to pull this into our... Not actually sure why I have chemical prints. So what I've done with new mining is I've taken to heart a couple of things. One, it's for smelting actually. I don't know why I'm calling it mining. It's actually for smelting. But one, I think I mentioned this little gap here and how we can squish it up. I don't think I fully appreciated when I discussed that just the extent to which we can save space. So let's see if I can superimpose this. This is exactly the same number of miners, but instead of overshooting the train dramatically in both directions, the overshoot is fairly muted, and is that balanced? No, it's not. So that's where the plate train is, so something like about there. That's the same width, so it should be up there. Right. So something like that, is it? Oh yeah, the I actually took it from the smelter stack, so the robo ports should fit in exactly, but you can see where the red overlays and how much extra out to the sides the other version goes. So we end up with a much tighter, it's not quite as compact as like it doesn't line up with the carriages perfectly, but it's a lot closer than what it was before. So this would save us a reasonable amount of bot travel and is definitely worth doing on that basis alone. But in addition to that, I'm going to try out a little technique called clocking smelters, which it's quite easy to set up a clock. It takes 3 smelters, and basically you simply work out an appropriate oops, you can go back in there, an appropriate cycle of ticks. So you know, there's supposedly 60 of these in a second, although we only get sort of round about 40, and you can work out how often it should be that one of these actually takes the ore out of the smelter and puts it into the chest, and you can basically enable a inserter to only operate sort of within that cycle, so that it's not on all the time. Now personally I have my doubts that this will actually help, because the circuit network itself, if you have a look at F5, it's certainly not free. We're using more than 0.4 of a microsecond every update, and doing this will increase that, and will in fact, instead of the inserter being checked to see whether it needs to swing, the circuit network will be checked to see if the inserter should be enabled, and then the inserter will be checked. So you actually add overhead. But a possible variation that may yield a worthwhile result is if you use a stack filter inserter, one of these guys, and you actually set the filter rather than just the enable disable condition. That might actually yield an improved result. So that is something we're going to look at. Anyway, before we get there, I think we have actually made our way all the way up to iron 29, so let's go and see what we can see. Let us put a radar up here, because I don't like not being able to see what's going on. Too many lights, not enough radars, so let's get rid of one. Now, why are you not going? You're not going because at this point... Oh, this is it. This is the reason right there. That was sad. Okay, let's jump back on board our train, because I don't actually want to head down anymore. I just have to be very careful, because these trains do not give you priority as the player. They kind of make their own rules. This guy is probably going to try and barge in as soon as it can. There you go. And then if we... oh, we can't. We're going to have to wait for this to cycle. And that's actually quite a large gap, so I am tempted, while we are here, not that we actually need to be here, but I'm tempted to place another 1, 2, just so there's no overlap there. Let's put that down. It may not have enough to actually fill the whole thing up. Now let's head up here. I should be able to drive up and stop just... oh, it's taking it off me. Well, that's probably okay as well. Yeah, now we're on the correct side. We can head somewhere. Has this had a bit of an uptick? It has, about 10%, but it's still not really that heavy, because we're not actually building a component at the moment. So I think we may have to put this modification on hold while we come down here and sort out what we're building. I think we decided we'd actually go for fuel cells. These guys, because of their use of rocket fuel, because that should help us build circuits for our modules that we can then use on the command center and get that done next. It looks like we're about 80% through Faster Than Light Theory A, so there's proof that you do get through it all. If we are headed to there, we better go to SpaceX components. We won't need iron 29 now for a while, I would think, so we can throw that away. And yes, that is kind of what I have been up to. I know that some people were using these conditions in the Clusterio project, the 60k Clusterio thing, and some even had it on train loading, where they would check that there was a full stack to move before the inserter would move. I mean, the conditions under Clusterio may be different to what we face here, which is a consideration, but certainly on the basis of what we're doing here, we would typically have more than the 12 plates sitting in our requester chests, so adding additional circuitry is certainly not something that would help. And I think I've cautioned before against adding circuitry for the sake of it. You definitely need to have a very real benefit for doing it, along with most things actually. So when we went from an 8 beacon build base to a 12 beacon, on the whole a 12 beacon base, we noticed a definite improvement in UPS. This clocking thing, if we don't notice a definite improvement in an obvious kind of way, it won't be something that I keep, because it's just a complication for no good reason at that point. If that makes sense. It's very easy to set up the clock. When we get to it, I'll show you. 3 combinators, it's nothing. Okay, this is the fun part where we kind of don't want that to be done by our bots. We basically need all of this to change. 64, okay. That's alright, I can deal with a few pipes. You, on the other hand, I think what we're going to need to do is just tell these bots to deal with it. And they have picked up a bunch of things. Mainly modules. So what sort of modules were we dealing with? With thrusters, it is speed modules, okay. Why don't we tell this that it can collect speed module 3s in the amount of, say, 5,000. Oh, no, I don't want you ordering another speed module train. That would just be bad. Let's get rid of that. Let's get rid of that for now. And unfortunately, that's probably... Oh, we've got lots of O's. That's not a good thing. We know what that means. Means our mod is not performing in the manner that it should entirely. I do actually have another version on of the mod, so we are making some slow progress. Basically, if we go into E and have a look in here, so that's a normal train stop. We have this train subscriber at the moment that I'm not 100% happy with, so we're migrating to a subscriber train stop. which just adds an advanced circuit basically. Maybe I should make it 2, so it's, well, you're going to use more of them, so that's probably good enough. A subscriber train stop. So all of these things here that are subscribers will all need to be changed to the new thing when I implement it. So that will be a bit of a task as well. But it will improve things, because if you look at this, that situation there should not exist, and I think that it won't when I have, I think it'll be easy to stop it occurring when I have the stations separated in the manner that they should be. Yeah, that's copper. Iron is looking slightly better in terms of the supply of ore. And we are here. Okay, good. So, let us place a new one of these guys, put in the formula for fuel, no, not uranium fuel cells, special ones that use rocket fuel. What do you use? You use steel. That's not anything that we used last time. You use processing units, so we can keep using those. You use low density structures, so we can keep using those. Rocket fuel, okay, so you can be changed to, is it steel, did we say? Steel. Steel in the amount of 200 perhaps, and you can be changed to rocket fuel, maybe 100. How much do we actually need? 8,000. Yes, that's going to take a while, isn't it? In fact, you, instead of not being anything, you're going to be rocket fuel as well. Of course, you can request from buffer chests. Yep. Okay. And we need to change this so that it gets a rocket fuel, no, fuel cell. Fuel cells, we need 50. Set it to 50. Whoops, 50. Good. Change these conditions. The only problem is I want rid of this stuff, don't I? You don't need speed modules, do you? No. Definitely don't want electric engines, so let's make sure that we don't pick up any, which is actually going to be a little bit hard. You can be electric engines. Let's make sure we don't order any. In fact, I already have. Good. We do need that, we do need that. This one here, we don't want that to be ordered. So, yeah. I don't need all those pipes. Might just pop up to, it's slightly further to go, but let's just pop up to the rubbish train up here. We can dump some things in the rubbish train. Pipes is probably a good example of something that can go in the rubbish train. Thanks, auto save. Auto trash for now. But I don't actually need any Right now, I don't need storage tanks. I don't need offshore pumps. Or those pumps either, for that matter. Probably not the nuclear fuel. Don't need energy shield Mark 1s. I don't need 50 energy shield Mark 2s. Right, the rubbish train can take care of that. And what else do we have? Oh yeah, more pipe. Let's just get rid of that. Okay. So, we need low density structure. That's good. We need processing units. That's good. These have their other commands. Let us change these to not so much that one, but the fuel. And let's run down here and get fuel happening. So, oh, we don't need speed modules, do we? You'd think I'd remember this after looking at it for about 3 or 4 times, wouldn't you? No, we do not need. We need steel, low density structures, and rocket fuel. Rocket fuel. So this one could be steel, perhaps. That could be steel. And you know what? We have steel just here, but I'd rather get it from this one rather than this one, because this one taps our iron supply. This one has an independent processing using this iron, which is otherwise not used, so that's probably the best source to use. The other one we could use is this one, but I think that, yeah, we'll use that guy over there, which I think is this steel 3 first, and then steel 2. Those two I actually could do being the other way around, but I guess it's okay. So yeah, it's the steel that we use. So let's get a train publisher, connect this up with red circuit wire, and you are our usual trains on the way is less than P, because that makes it easy. And if we get a steel as the priority, so that we select steel from in that order. That should be fine just as it is. That should be fine just as it is. And up here, we now need rocket fuel. So, that means that this needs to come from there to here. Read train contents, that's what we want. We don't want this stuff. We want this to be rocket fuel. That one can be rocket fuel. Q can be P, because that's easier for us. That probably doesn't need to be over there anymore. Let's get a lamp. And the wire goes from here and then down to there, across to here. And then from here it goes back to there. And this one is trains on the way is less than P, again because that is easy. Why didn't we get our little guy there? Oh, because that's a lamp. That is not a train publisher, that's why. These possibly need to be made slightly more distinctive. Anyway, let's do that again. So trains on the way is less than P, and we want rocket fuel at this point. So we get it from the northeast first, and then from the one in the southwest. That should be fine. What have we got in here? We've got a bunch of stuff that's kind of bad actually. I think what we'll do is we'll get our bots over here to clear that stuff out. We will request a bit of that. What else do we have in here? Got speed modules. So I basically want to clear all of these if we can. We're using all of our bots, which I guess makes sense. One train on the way there. We're going to need a bit of fuel. Why don't we make this 2+. Order another one. Got that O thing carrying on again. This time it should work. Oh, we have a congestion issue. You have no path because you're trying to do something silly, because that's my other bug, which I actually think is related to the first one. Rocket fuel. Rocket fuel west, wait for circuit condition, go to that one, thanks. You also have the same problem. Rocket fuel west, wait, circuit condition. Whoops, no, go to that one. Can't tell this one yet. No, that's how it should be. That would explain a few things. So what should happen is this will drive up straight into here. This will be like I've just clicked. Oh, not straight into there. Where are you going? Oil. Oh, okay. This one will be. Oil. No, that's not right either. Oil, southwest, wait. This might have something to do with my speeding on of the oil by sort of manually forcing the vent to fire. I call it crude oil, don't I? Crude oil, southwest, wait, okay. That one is fine. Those two are fine. That one's not. So it should go from oil 5 to crude oil. Southwest, wait for circuit condition. That one shouldn't be on the list. And there's only these 2 oil stops, so we can check them, and we can check that one. Alright, that's a bit of a mess, but it should sort itself out, I think. Yep. Alright. We have a look back here now. What is happening? Not a lot. We still have the wrong stuff in there. A lot of modules. We out of these. Okay. Just get rid of them, guys. Come on, let's go. Now, how are you going? You are missing steel still. Hopefully not. Oh, this is right. Okay, you stop. No, manual. Das soll man pull now. I keep forgetting that I'm actually using stack filter inserters here, so I need to change these to steel. How much iron? Oh, some of these have a lot of iron, so we're going to have to move the iron out as well. You can order in iron plate. Hopefully that will clear the iron out, and this thing should be able to start building. Needs an awful lot of rocket fuel though. Plastic is starting to kick up. How are we doing? We are virtually out of rocket fuel. We have O still. And O has processed, but that's because what's happened here is the normal process. Well, one of the two ways these things sort of get triggered and the conditions set, and one of them is on arrival, and that's basically the equivalent of my sort of manual kicking them in the butt. So when this guy comes along, if there's any O, there is not, so it will actually park, and then we might have the problem with that one in the future, but the others had O's waiting. Now, we have DAS modules there. These should be able to be called by DAS modules, but we have had issues with that actually happening, haven't we? That's plastic. Oh, they don't need to because they're getting called from here. Yeah, that's a new one that's cycled in. So one of these should have fired up. Maybe I will give it a kick. Now, I really shouldn't need to do that, but never mind. We are doing that. So, it would seem that we still have some engines in here. That's very unfortunate. What are you up to? 1,200 rocket fuel. Yes, the rocket fuel requirement for these fuel cells is actually quite insane. One of these trains only carries 3,200, so it's 2.5 of those trains were they able to completely unload, but in this case they were not. Efficiency module 3s. Okay, so we need to move efficiency module 3s as well. We will need them in due course, so there's no point getting them out of here completely. But let's go for, say, 5,000. Just get them out of there. Maybe we should make that 200. I don't know if it will really help. But yes, that should... Oh, we actually have one of these processed. Only 49 to go. Okay, so... you need to change, and you need to change. What we'll do is we will request fuel cells in the amount of 5. And we'll also do that there. Hopefully they'll load fairly evenly, but even if they don't, it doesn't matter. You are rocket cargo, so that one is when circuit is less than 0. That's fine, it will just wait there. We can kind of manually control that one. And that, I guess, is our setup. Let's make sure there is no other unfortunate hold-ups. What have we got? We've got a lot of steel there. Why have we got so much steel? Yeah, I don't know. There we go. Oh, maybe we set the iron to a higher number than we really needed. Divided by 8,000, it probably doesn't need that. 1 plus though, whatever. And we have about 26,000 steel around here at the moment. And there you go, we will eventually get to the 8,000, so that will happen. So it kind of hasn't really impacted these numbers overly just yet. What are you doing for 1 minute? Steel's pretty low still. Rocket fuel is... that's probably the one that's going to impact us, but we had plenty in storage, so maybe not too much. DAS modules. Not that it is modules at all, it's something completely different. Why are you just sitting there? That bug is going to annoy me more and more. I still think it's just really the performance of working through the priorities inside a single tick, and that is what causes the whole process. So when I have my full indexing, it should be fine. Let me just make a save game. I'm on version 10 for the moment, so we will save that. Hopefully this won't cause any issues. So I can just go over this sort of key field that I've got that I haven't fully implemented yet. This sort of gives me a unique key over this table. So this is actually a much longer list, but this list is a unique key version of it, so I can query it kind of directly. And using that should help me lower the total processing of this. In addition to, I can potentially split it over multiple thingies, multiple ticks rather than all in one tick, which is one of the things that on arrival is automatically spread, so we don't have quite the same issue. How are we doing? We've actually done 2 and they're both sitting in there at the moment. Oh well, it doesn't really matter that much. But that is good. What I might do is, we have fuel cells underway. It's kind of a big undertaking to start mucking around with these stacks. So what I wanted to do was to ensure that we had enough kind of going on to make it worthwhile, and I think we do now. So because aside from anything else, you want to make sure that there's not a massive amount of ore or iron plate just sitting here that you need to pick up to process, or pick up to condense all of this mining, and that seems to be the case. So I guess next episode we will actually tackle the condensing of these, and we'll stick with what amounts to a fairly short episode because that's all I've got until I do that, and I'd like a full episode to start doing that. And it's also late, and it's also school holidays here in Australia, so that's all we're going to have time for. But thanks for joining me, hope you enjoyed it, and looking forward to seeing you in the next. And I think the fuel cells are going to take a while, quite possibly most of this, but it should be good time for us to experiment with our stack changes. See you then guys, bye bye for now.